afternoon. I'm Addy. It's July 25th and we're in Auburn, Alabama. Today I'd like to show you some techniques on how to produce green Japanese maple understock for grafting. Your seedlings will come out on your tree just about when the leaves do in the spring, and they're formed on little umbilicals, and there's an example of one. And right now it's in the middle of the summer and they're already on there. Now you wouldn't want to get them yet. You want to wait till the fall when they start to change colors and start to fall off, but you do want to collect them while they're green and fresh. And you take the seeds and you clean them up, and each one has 2 seeds. And then after you get them cleaned, you just put them in a small plastic container with a good high quality commercial potting soil. And typically in a container this size, I will put in about 100 seeds. And I know that from this container I will be able to get 1 flat of Japanese maple seedlings. Last thing I'm going to do, I wanted to show you about how your soil that you put in your container of seeds should look. Not completely dry, but it should not be wet. If it's wet, your seeds are going to rot and they're not going to germinate. So the one test is just to squeeze it, and if you're able to squeeze any water out, you are way too wet. So hopefully you can see kind of the consistency of what you're looking for. And then the last thing I do is just get a little Sublime Sulfur. You can get this at most drugstores, or you can order it online from Amazon or eBay. And I get about 1 teaspoon, and I put it in with the fresh seeds and potting soil. And take the container and shake it up. And then your seeds are going to need to go through a process called stratification. They require cold dormancy of about 100 days before they'll sprout. So to achieve this, you just simply put them in your refrigerator. Make sure you're not in a cold spot and they don't freeze. And if they do freeze, it won't hurt them. It'll just take them longer to germinate. But what you'll find is after about 100 days, you'll start seeing some root tips forming on your seeds, and at that time you can move them up. And how I do it from that point, once they start germinating, is I just move them up into commercial flats. And I use a 48 cell configuration on a standard flat. These are ones I did probably, I think, in January and February is when they started to sprout, and I moved them up then in my greenhouse, and these are now about 3 months old. And at this point there's a couple of different options. You can hold them in this configuration for up to a year, or you can move them up, which is what I do. And I move them up to a 4.5 inch container. And this is how I will store them until I graft them. And these are this year's crop, and it takes approximately 2 years to grow a graftable Japanese maple understock. And what you will have on your second season is this. And these are now of the proper size that we can go and start to graft. There's been a lot of confusion on exactly where you should graft your Japanese maples. There are standards that say all trees should be grafted at 12 inches or below. But on Japanese maples, with all the varieties we have and different growth habits, That's really what's going to dictate where and how you graft your tree. And I've got two examples here. This is a fire glow. This is a very upright tree and forms a nice straight trunk on its own. And so when I graft this tree, I will typically graft it, and I've grafted this one right here, and I will get that graft as close to the ground as possible. Now this is a pygmy. If I grafted the same tree at the ground, it would form more of a bush. And that's not the look that I wanted for this particular tree, so I did a high graft, and I grafted this tree right here. Now, the reason I will do such a high graft on a tree like this is because this tree is going to break immediately, and it will not form a central trunk. So I like to have the nice trunk established so that I can showcase what this tree will do and keep it off the ground. It's mid-July, so we can start our late summer grafts now. And here's a 2-year understock. Today I'm grafting a cultivar called Shana. The first thing I'm going to do is just sterilize the seedling or the understock with some alcohol, and these are my scion. And I'm going to put a little alcohol in these too. And what I've done, if your grafts have leaves on them, cut the leaves off and leave half the petiole. And these I've already prepared. These are scion. And the first thing I'm going to do, we've got everything clean. Now I'm going to spray with an all-purpose fungicide. I use Daconel. Any general purpose fungicide will be fine. I'll spray the tree and my scion. Okay, now I'm ready to make a cut, and the first cut we're going to do, it's called a pocket cut. I'm going to take the tree and I'm going to gently bend the tree over, and I'm just going to make a pocket right here. And I'm going to come up, and I'm going to square this off, just like that. Now that's all we need on our understock. And now we're going to prepare the scion. And the scion is 2 straight cuts. We call them chisel cuts. We're going to start here, go straight down, and turn it 180 degrees, straight down. Now what I'm looking for is a nice V shape right there. Nice and clean, no waves. So I'm going to insert the scion into my pocket cut. Now what I want to do now is I want to line up this part of the cut with here, and we're matching cambium. Here, 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 and here, and across the top. Now we're only going to be able to match the cambium on one side. There's no way we're going to match it on both sides. So just aim to get this one side cambium to cambium match from your flap cut, chisel cut back to your back of your flap cut. And when I'm happy with that alignment, and that looks good right there, I can tape it. I use a product called Buddy Tape. It's perforated grafting tape. Comes in 1-inch strips, and I cut those in half. And then when you stretch this product, it becomes self-adhesive. And I'm going to start about, a node below the graft. And I'm going to start wrapping, and when I wrap this graft, I'm only going to go 1 wrap, or about a half a wrap overlap each wrap. Don't overwrap your grafts. Okay. The perforations are there so that the graft can breathe, and if you wrap it too tight, or if you wrap it too many times, it won't be able to do that. Okay, as soon as I get above the graft, or above all my cuts, I'm just going to put a little pressure and pull that tape off, and that tree is grafted. Let's do one or two more real quick. This is our understock, our seedling, our green Japanese maple seedling, Acer palmatum. Gonna clean it with alcohol. Everything's sterile. After every graft, I'm also going to clean my knife blade with alcohol. Okay, now I'm going to come in and we're going to do our pocket cut. I'm going to take the tree and I'm going to gently bend it over. And I'm going to do the pocket cut. Not real deep. And we'll come back and top him off. Now we'll prep this scion with 2 chisel cuts. We're going to go and we're going to just come straight down. Turn this 180 degrees straight down. And what I'm looking for is that nice V-shaped. Okay, now we can insert this into our understock, our scion into our understock. And remember, we're just trying to match on this side cambium layers here, back here, and across this top. And this one's lining up very nicely. Right there, where I want it, and now I can tape it. Remember, we're going to start about a node underneath our graft. 1/2 wrap, go up a width of your tape each wrap. And watch while you're going across that you don't knock your scion out of alignment. And when you get above the graft, a little gentle pressure on the tree. And then, if you haven't wrapped your tree real heavily, you can actually see through this tape and get one final check that everything, all my cambium layers are aligned. And that tree's grafted. Okay, let's do one more. This looks like a nice one. Alright, first thing we're gonna always remember to clean. And I use alcohol. Some people use a weak bleach solution. Just use a rubbing alcohol. You want to get both your scion and your understock. And then I come back with the fungicide, scion and the understock. Now we're ready to graft this tree. I'm going to take it and I'm going to bend her over. And I'm going to make a pocket cut. And then I'm going to square that pocket cut off. Now I'm going to take my scion, 2 chisel cuts, down, 180 degrees over, and down. Now, that has a nice profile, but didn't go deep enough, so I'm just going to come square that off and do this one again. We'll come 1 cut down, turn it over 180 degrees, one cut down. There's my profile. See, I've got the nice V. Come in here on my pocket cut with my scion. We'll line it up always just on one side. Line up all my cambium layers here, here, and across this flap. And that looks real nice. We have a good chance of that one taken. And now we'll wrap it, and I usually start about one note under the graft. Each wrap I'm going to come up 1/2 the width of the tape. I'm going to be very careful going across the graft that I don't knock the scion out of alignment. And when I get above the cut, a little gentle pressure on the front and back of the tree, and I'm just going to pull that tape off. And I can go back and look, everything's still in alignment, and that graft is ready to go. Now there's a few other things that we need to do before we're finished. We're going to need to apply a grafting wax. And the product I use is just a water-based synthetic grafting wax. But what I'm going to do is just come in and put just a little bit, eyes on. Make sure that's sealed good. Now I don't like to use a lot of this particular product because it'll be on there for several years. So just where you need it, just a drop. And then this one, come in here, just add this extra protection just right here at the top. There. And our last one here, come in, get this top sealed. And there. And finally, we're going to come in and put a bag on these. This is about a 6-inch bag. It's about 1.5 inches wide. I cut a little slit right here about an inch long. And you want to be gentle when you're doing this, because this is where a lot of times I'll see people knock a scion. They'll bump it and knock it out of alignment. Now at this point I'm finished. Some people will come and tie this with a little tie. That's optional. So let's go to our next one. We'll take our bag, make a little slit in it, and I'm going to show you another trick. Is you can take your fungicide and spray it in the bag, and then just when you get, just shake it out like that, and that'll give you a little extra protection against pathogens. But mostly what the bag is for is to keep your humidity level high. We're in a race when we're grafting between the graft taking or it desiccating and dying, and the bag will buy us a couple extra days. by keeping the humidity high, kind of forming a little greenhouse around the graft. And that one is finished. I'm still able to look through, check everything one more time, and then I can put him in the tray. And our last one here. Take our bag, put a little slice in it. I like to put a little fungicide here too for some added protection. It's usually a fungal spore that will spoil grafts. If they get in the union, your graft will not take. That's why we're always cleaning after cuts. Keep everything sterile. Your success rate will be much better. And very gently put that on. And now that tree is finished. And we only have one last thing to do. And that's to get all our trees that we did today. Remember, today we grafted Shana. It's a palmatum type, a red. And whenever you're grafting a Japanese maple, you need to immediately label it after you graft it. We have about 3,000 to maybe 4,000 commercially available cultivars. If you don't label your graft, you're going to forget what it is. And once you don't know what it is, it's very difficult to go back and find out because there's so many that are similar. I use a number 2 pencil. May sound strange, but this will actually last. The number 2 pencil will actually last several years. You can also use a permanent marker. They won't last as long. There are some specialty markers now, specifically for labeling outdoors. Sharpie makes one, but I've always been fine just using a number 2 pencil. And now I've labeled these. Now, after about 3 to 4 weeks, what you should have, and I've got an example of one I did about 4 weeks ago, is this. This tree was grafted about 4 weeks ago. It's taken. The tape's still on here a little bit. It's coming off. I've already taken about this much of the tree off. And the final thing that I would do is called the back cut, and I'm just going to come up here and align with where I had my graft. Now remember, this one's already been grafted, and this is I just wanted to show you that final cut. And then after I've completed this cut, this tree is now ready, and I will move it up to a 1-gallon container and put it in my production yard. This is my production mat where I grow my understock with green Japanese maple seedlings for grafting. After I move them up from the flats, I put them out here. There's approximately 600 to 700 that you're seeing now. And I can keep them in this format for up to 4 years. And as I graft them, I keep a couple of hundred right along this strip before I move to my retail mats. And after 2 to 3 years, the understock will have been grafted, and finally I move it up to a retail size.